Hey there, what's up Facebook? It is day 2 of my Stanley Black & Decker seminar. So I'm going to go finish this up, but before I go in, I wanted to do our 5-minute activation. So can I get 5 minutes of your time? I am Kene Corder, speaker, author, and best-selling author, and financial therapist. And today I want to talk to you about being impeccable with your word. What does that mean to you? Being impeccable with your word. When you are impeccable with your word, you keep your word to yourself first. How do you expect to keep your word to anybody else if you don't first keep your word to yourself? That's what's most important. So many of us, we set goals, we make promises, not just to our friends, our family, and even to our clients or strangers. Sometimes we make promises to ourselves that we don't keep. What are some promises you've made to yourself that you haven't kept? How can you do better at keeping your promises to yourself? Because let's face it, if you don't keep your promise to yourself, are you really going to keep your promise to anybody else? Be impeccable with your word. And the way that you do that is to tell yourself why it is important. What is that thing that you've told yourself that you're going to do, and why is that important to you? So let's take, for instance, I am working on, let's say, I'll make up an example. So let's say, for instance, that you want to go on a trip. Like, this is what you want to do, and you use this trip as a reward for something else that you want to do. Hey Brandon, thanks for watching. So you use this trip as a reward for something else that you've got to do. So let's say the trip is the reward, which is another way that you can be impeccable with your word, is by rewarding yourself. So let's say the trip is the reward, and the real ultimate goal is for you to save a certain amount of money. So let's say you said, once I save $1,000, I can take this trip. Hey Kenny, what's going on? Long time no see. So let's say you said, after I save up $1,000, I can take this trip, right? So now you have a goal and you have a reward. In order to keep your word to yourself, you've got to do something every day towards that goal. So let's say you said, every time I spend money, I'll put a certain amount in my savings. So if I spend $100, then I've got to put at least $10 in my savings account. Whatever that number is, you make it up. And so you see what I'm doing. In order to keep my word to myself, what I do is I put a lot of systems in place that make me do it. But keeping your word to yourself is important because you create a habit of being impeccable with your word. And I choose you when I say be impeccable with your word. Do it with yourself first, because you are really the most important. So you are made in the image and likeness of God, the universe, right? And so if you put yourself first, you're also putting the universe first. You're also putting your God first. And so the God power inside of you. And if you do that, then you can help anybody else, because you know how they say, put your mask on first before assisting others. So you know that saying. So go ahead and do that. And by keeping the word to yourself first, you're able to keep your word to anybody else. So you see how I gave you the example of how you put systems in place. Like you say, every dollar I spend, I'm going to save 10% of it into my savings. That way you get to your goal faster, and you don't stop yourself from spending. Because sometimes what happens is that people say, oh, I have to save, which makes them feel like they can't spend. And you can spend. Money needs to be spent. That's part of the money cycle. It's not just about saving. That saving is just one part of the money cycle. So you've got to make sure that you're going ahead and enjoying your money too. And sometimes that's paying bills. You can enjoy your money by paying bills. Like, don't you like having lights and electricity? Don't you love having air conditioning or heating in the winter? Don't you just love driving your car around? So you've got to pay that car note. You've got to pay that insurance. And hey, you like looking good too, right? So you got to go shopping sometimes, and you got to eat. So don't feel bad about spending money. Just give yourself like a... I also have to save some of it. Got it? So it's earn. You earn the money. You can also enjoy the money. You can also save it, and you put a reward at the end. And that is how you keep your word to yourself. So I used finances as an example because that's my default. But it doesn't necessarily have to be finances. You can use this system with anything that you're doing, but just keep in mind, be impeccable with your word and keep your word to yourself first, and then everybody else will fall in line. So that's my 5-minute activation. Thanks for giving me 5 minutes of your time. Head on over to presidentiallifestyle.com, join the mailing list, because you can get videos like this, and I'll email you and let you know when I'm going live on Facebook, so we won't miss each other. Let's stay connected. Head on over to presidential